Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Globe Law and Business. It's in a slightly different format from their normal publications because it's a paperback. The title is called Regulation, Compliance and Ethics in Law Firms, an important book for your own law firm. It's been written by a barrister called Tracey Calvert, and as I say, it's part of the new set of publications from Globe Law, which are called the Good Practice Guides. Elizabeth and I talked about the book, and for our review we've given it this title: The Strategies Your Firm Needs to Achieve a Businesslike Response to Regulatory and Ethical Duties in the 21st Century. And I've tried there to sum up what this book is really about. It's only a small book. It's a paperback, as I say, as you can see. Interesting cover. There's the spine, and then on the back there's a little bit of blurb, which I'll refer to, of course, in the review. It runs to about 200, just over 200 odd pages, 230 odd. The index at the back is by page numbering rather than paragraph numbering, so that's quite useful to find things. Then there's a little bit of detail about the author at the back rather than the front, and a picture of her. You can just see the photograph there. And if we go to the front of the book, as I say, it's a slightly different way of publishing. That's the actual front page. And then inside we've got the table of contents, and I'll mention them because the contents section is split into sections with 14 chapters. The preface is well worth reading because it sets out what Tracey is intending to achieve with this book. It's only a very short preface, but it's well worth reading. And then you go straight into the various sections, the first one being governance and risk management, and then running through. There are quite a lot of tables, and they are quite useful because obviously they are standing out, and then of course there are case studies as well, which I think will be very informative, not just from the point of view of the way the legal profession runs, but very much attuned to management requirements for the 21st century, because we're in a very different world even from a few years ago, where, because of the internet basically and information technology. So what do we say? As we all know, whether we like it or not, legal regulation, like all professions, has become more onerous for firms as the decades roll by, and we can't argue against it or dismiss it. I know some people would like to, but we can't. Therefore, we're delighted to read this new and important work from the new Good Practices Guides, or Good Practice Guides, which I think is the correct way of doing it, from it's a series from Globe Law and Business, and this one is on regulation, compliance and ethics in law firms. An important area, of course, been written by Barrister Tracey Calvert, and it gives a new perspective on our current duties at a time of further unwelcome change. Well, unwelcome change for many. The problem is it is actually quite an additional burden for a lot of people. Now, as the author declares in her introduction, regulation, compliance and ethics matter. Calvert states, quote, that it is essential that firms understand what is expected of each individual within the entity and have answers to the questions against which they will be tested. Her conclusion is frankly quite chilling, quote, only the correct answers will keep your firm in business. And that's at the front of the book. And so that gives you some idea of how important I think we've got to treat this subject. And it's for those reasons that your firm, we think, needs this enlightened book in the age of regulation, as I've put it in quotes in the review. Not sadly enlightenment, which of course will not disappear after Brexit, whatever some of those Brexiteers may think. The book's over 200 pages long, and it's published in what I think is a very useful paperback edition rather than a hardback edition, and it slips into the pocket nicely. There are 4 sections and 14 chapters of sensible advice, and a lot of it is actually management, directly related to law firms' advice, gleaned from Calvert's experience in-house and, of course, in the private sector. And the knowledge covers regulation, compliance and ethics, and they're the 3 common features of all basically well-run law firms. Obviously, the important thing to bear in mind here is that without an understanding of regulatory expectations, compliance duties and ethical behaviours and so forth, a firm can run the risk of censure adverse publicity and client dissatisfaction. So they've got to be very much on the ball. Yes, we know it's essential that law firm owners and managers acknowledge and have strategies to accommodate risk management, regulatory and legal compliance, and ethical values in their businesses. And that's the reason why, of course, this book is so needed at a time of change. And it's a disturbing change for many people, because we don't really know at the moment what is going to happen in 2019, because there's an awful lot of change that's possibly on the way. Therefore, practitioners must also have, I think, a common understanding as to how this aim will be achieved under the watchful eye of the enforcers. And I do think that we've got to be very well aware of frankly, the extraordinary amount of power these people have been given. I sometimes question whether they should have as much power in a free society, but there we are, that's the way it is. Now, let me conclude by saying it's a guide which the writer intends to provide lawyers with the language, arguments and practical solutions which are needed to make this happen. And Calvert, I think, succeeds brilliantly in her advice to us on modern regulation. So thank you very much to Globe Law and Business for this further book. It's very much a management book as much as anything else, I think, because these new books which are appearing are just at the right time, I think, for the profession as we enter, basically, we're looking towards the 2020s already. We've only got just over 12 months and we'll be there, because I'm recording this towards the end of 2018, so we've just got 2019 left. The book was published on the 14th of November 2018, so it's a pretty new review, because I'm recording this shortly after receiving the book. Let's just have a quick look at it again. There it is, paperback. There's the spine, and then you can see the stuff on the back. Just opening in the middle, you can see again, she does use case studies, and I think these case studies are very helpful. There are no footnotes as such or anything like that, and there's no paragraph numbering. So what you're looking for in the index at the back should be quite easy to find. It's not that difficult, but it's actually a book, I think, that you can read from cover to cover, and will find it a very interesting addition to the knowledge and understanding and experience you have at the moment of how the law firms run. It's also relevant, of course, I think, to barristers' chambers as well. So a big thank you to Tracey Calvert and to Sean and all the people at Globe Law for this new book. Very grateful to review it. Thank you to all. Bye-bye.